Nearly 6,000 women were reported missing or murdered in 2016 alone, a number so alarming that billboards like this one began popping up in Michigan and Minnesota to raise awareness to what coalition groups are calling an ongoing genocide.
I have a daughter. I wouldn't want that to happen to her.
Andrea Roca is a Grand River Band of Ottawa Indian and a mother of 3. Bella, her oldest, is 17.
You want some?
For more than 2 decades, the 36-year-old has lived with an overwhelming fear her only daughter could be abducted at any moment, because she says that's what happened to her.
When I was a teenager, I grew up in Grand Rapids on a busy street, and we had a corner store, and I was walking to the corner store, and there was a vehicle that pulled up to a driver, and someone grabbed me, pulled me in.
But Roca escaped, ran to the corner store, and hid in a back room. She says the clerk chased one of her kidnappers away. Andrea is actually one of the lucky ones. She survived. Statistics show 4 in 5 American Indian and Alaska Native women have experienced violence, and more than half have lived through sexual violence.
It's been a very long-term, painful, agonizing issue. One where a lot of family members have taken matters into their own hands, formed their own search parties, done their own work to find their loved ones.
In August, the Native Justice Coalition launched this billboard campaign in the Great Lakes region. And there's new action in Washington from members of Congress like Deb Haaland.
The issue of missing or murdered Indigenous women has been happening since colonization started in the late 1400s. So it's a very deep-seated issue. It's not something that's just, happened in the last couple decades or anything like that.
Haaland has introduced numerous bills, including the Not Invisible Act, which creates a committee of law enforcement, tribal leaders, and victims advocates to advise Congress on potential solutions, and Savannah's Act. This bill helps share data between law enforcement agencies.
Communication is a definite issue when it comes to violence against Native women and missing and murdered Indigenous women. We need to give people the ability to be connected with law enforcement if we expect them to be able to contact them and have them respond when they're in danger.
In November, President Trump and Attorney General William Barr launched a task force similar to the Not Invisible Act, called the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Initiative, or MMIP.
Now, did the White House or the DOJ reach out to you to get your advice, considering you have launched a lot of new legislation and amendments to combat or tackle this issue?
No, we didn't hear from them at all.
What would have been your feedback or some advice that you would have given them?
It's not something you can just think of and go out and do. It's a lot of meeting and talking and getting feedback from the folks whose lives have been affected by this really terrible issue.
The National Congress of American Indians reports there are more than 500 federally recognized tribes. The Justice Department says Barr met with 2 before announcing the initiative. The $1.5 million initiative places coordinators and attorneys' offices across 11 states, including Michigan, to develop protocols for law enforcement's response to missing cases, provides and coordinates FBI assistance with tribal leaders, and improves data analysis.
I think there's very necessary that there's a focus on it at the federal level.
Levi Rickard, the publisher of a Native American news website, applauds the effort, but says it's not enough.
I think one of the problems that we've seen, because we are in fact American Indians and sometimes not taken seriously in terms of who we are as people, and a lot of times the women are accused of being runaways or going out with prostitutes, and so there's been a real de-emphasis of who we are as Native people.
A feeling 15-year-old Andrea Roca says she felt after being questioned by the police.
I gave them all my information, and then they just right away started saying, well, you can tell us you're making this up, right? You wanted attention, and it was like, no.
21 years later, Andrea says she and her family never heard from investigators. Newsy asked the Grand River Police if it had any records of Andrea's complaint. They could not find any.
I was fortunate to get away, There's so many that didn't, and they should be heard, you know? They shouldn't be forgotten.